It's loading. Jets, Jets. What is going on, guys? And welcome to the first ever Jets Ward live stream. I am so excited for you guys to be here. And to kick it off, our first live stream, I've got my great friend, Rich Fisher from FishBowl Fantasy Sports. How you doing, Rich?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How about yourself tonight?
Not bad. We have been having so much excitement so far with legal tampering period and free agency. I'm excited to see how everything is going so far. How about you, buddy?
Some crazy moves being made, some crazy not so moves being made, as we kind of discussed beforehand, but I can't wait to discuss them with you guys all live here. Again, feel free to drop a comment to you guys. We want to definitely chat with you guys and hear your guys' thoughts from different teams, fans, of course, too.
Oh, definitely. If you're not a Jets fan, you are always welcome here, no matter what fan of an NFL team you are. We love having you guys in here. Comment down below. Let us know what you guys are thinking about how this free agency is going so far. Have your teams made some really good plays? Or are there players that you guys signed that you're not very happy? I know with the Jets, Brandon Stevens is somebody who is very interesting. I will say that. Rich, what about you, buddy? I know your Titans are trying to make moves.
Trying to in confusing ways. That's how I'd kind of break it down. They very undecided if they want to move in the direction of rebuild or if they feel like they're in contention with some of the signings that they've made. A couple of mind-boggling decisions that they made was re-signing a third-line offensive lineman, probably just for a depth piece, I'm going to assume. Re-signing their long snapper. I mean, I'm glad to see that was a key thing for an atrocious special teams roster that we had last year, which hopefully, with the new special teams coach that we just signed, hopefully we're moving in the right direction at that. But to start off, my tyrant that I do have is the signing of possibly the most overpaid offensive lineman in maybe history, signing Dan Moore from the Pittsburgh Steelers. An interesting stat that I saw last night when I was looking more into it, because I saw, okay, Titans are signing an offensive lineman. Obviously, O-line is probably the number one need on this roster, as we had the second worst offensive line last year. So as I'm looking more into it, I'm thinking, okay, this guy might be solid. I never heard of this guy before, so let me do some deep dives in it. So he was a left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As we look at the Steelers roster right now, probably their biggest weakness is offensive line. So red flag there. If you have an offensive line issue, you're releasing your left tackle. It's something isn't looking right. So then the stat that I read last night was he tied the league lead in sacks allowed. 4 years, $80 million contract, everybody, to possibly a team that only played with 4 linemen all last year because nobody played right tackle for Tennessee. And that's just the direction we're going. Now, we signed another defensive back piece for our end. We re-signed, or actually picked up Cody Barton, who I do like from the Broncos. He's a pretty good run-stopping defensive player. It's definitely going to help us out with the Kenneth Murray fiasco that was last year's contract. So I am excited for that, at least. Obviously, linebacking per pass coverage and another edge pass rusher is what we're looking for. So hopefully that's something that we're going to settle with Abdul Carter, hopefully in the draft. But I still think we're going to go quarterback if we don't sign, Russell Wilson or potentially Aaron Rodgers. So,
and that's been some of the biggest talks right now. It's like a set in stone that you guys are going with Cam Ward and not Abdul Carter, which is shocking because you still got Will Levis. I know that's not really that exciting, but there are some veteran options that you can go with. Aaron Rodgers is still out there. I've been saying that Aaron Rodgers should go to Tennessee because he could turn your team around. There's Russell Wilson. There's so many different quarterbacks. Jameis Winston would be fun for you guys, in all honesty. Make it exciting.
Just somebody that can push the ball down the field. That's what we're looking for. I mean, I think one thing with Levis is obviously he had the shoulder injury, so taking care of himself could have helped us out a little bit last year. But ever since the shoulder injury, he did not look the same after last year. Just wasn't getting the rhythm. Again, now it was a second year, second different offense that he was trying to run. So it's kind of a little bit of start of like the Justin Fields era when he was starting with the Bears. He's going to have a new offensive coordinator every year. But yeah, I just what we're trying to sign is not what we're going for, or as far as like what our needs are. We're not really attempting to go to try to fix them. Like they picked up Dan Moore and they're possibly going to be making him stay at left tackle. And as we've been developing J.C. Latham at the left tackle position, who went from right tackle in college to left tackle, now moving him back to right tackle. Obviously, now you're just admitting that last year was just a test run to see what we could do with the new regime. But yeah, nothing to really look forward to as a Titans fan for the next couple of seasons again.
And that's the thing. You guys have spent high draft picks on linemen. Peter Skoronski is your right guard, I believe. He's somebody who's been a high draft pick who had a lot of positives coming out of college. J.C. Latham was somebody who a lot of Jets fans really wanted at right tackle as well. And you guys ended up getting him. So you have a pretty young offensive line. It just really hasn't worked out for you guys so far.
Nope. Like I said, and last year, who was I'm trying to like bad with names all of a sudden, but the tackle there for the Chargers. If the Chargers did not have one pick ahead of us last year, I'm trying to think now who it was. I don't know why my mind's going blank.
First round pick, Alt.
Yeah, Alt. Yeah, it's say if Joe Alt wasn't one pick ahead of us, so that would have been obviously our offensive line probably would have been sealed up by now, but. I say we have too many pieces. We're going with O-line Jesus with Bill Callahan, thinking that he's going to solve the issues with the lack of talent that we have, and it's just not working already.
And just going off of that, this is like it's been so chaotic so far, and the trades that have been made even before we got into the free agency, DK Metcalf going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, there were so many teams that wanted him. Yeah, could have thought the Raiders were going to get him, especially that the Raiders just got Geno Smith from Seattle. And then I made a bold prediction that he was going to go to the Chiefs because the Chiefs, I don't think we're going to be worried about giving away the 31st pick for him. They could have got him that easy. But the Steelers swoop in, they give the Seahawks what they wanted, and then gave him a $150 million contract. DK got paid, and now you got DK, who's a great receiver, but a hothead. And then you got George Pickens, who can be a great receiver, but is in the end zone fighting people. So you got a dynamic offense right there. And the big question I have is, like, what is Pittsburgh going to do? They have no quarterback. If you look at their roster right now, they have Skylar Thompson as their only QB. And it's gotten so bad. I was reading today on X that they were thinking about bringing in Mason Rudolph again. And you guys have interest in bringing him back too. You guys are in talks, and he has an interest coming back. So there's a lot of stuff going on that's just been shocking. I don't know what Pittsburgh is doing with the quarterback situation. They have the solid offense. They have great defense. Biggest position, quarterback. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. No, and I honestly think that they are the front runners right now. We talked about this before. I think it's Aaron Rodgers. Because with those two receivers, they're both going to demand the ball. Aaron Rodgers can obviously spread the ball around to every single playmaker that they have. It'll just be interesting to see how the offense is ran because Rodgers usually runs under the Nathaniel Hackett style offense. So I think with Arthur Smith running very run heavy offense himself, as we saw when he was head coach for the Falcons and this time with the Titans, and a little bit last year, he was able to get somewhat production out of both Warren and Najee Harris. So it'd be kind of interesting in their in the draft process on how well they think about the running backs. Because on my end, I have Omarion Hampton going to them in the draft, whether if they trade up for him or if he seems to fall down to the 21 spot. But again, now if they don't go after a Rodgers, I also then see them being in the Shador Sanders sweepstakes. Because now I'm starting to see as rosters are being filled out. Less teams are going to need the quarterback now besides, the Giants. That'll be like the other team besides the Titans. Yeah. I think that would have to be must-haves for a quarterback. So if Shador does fall, I do see him possibly going to the Steelers if they decide to, it depends again. If they want to go 2 years with Rodgers, maybe his final 2 years he could have, you can skip out on a quarterback, get your running back this year. or if you think that he's maybe just there 1 year to help develop, then maybe they go both, a Rodgers and Shador first round pick. So be interesting to see. I think a lot of it does fall on Rodgers, and where he does fall as far as like the rest of the quarterbacks that are available, and the team's needing a quarterback.
Yeah, and it's difficult right now to check because there are 3 teams that have been linked to Aaron Rodgers. All day it's been he's choosing between the Steelers and the Giants. But now the Vikings, and it all goes full circle. Brett Favre goes from Packers to the Jets, then to the Vikings. If it happens with Aaron Rodgers now, I think I'll lose my mind because I don't want to see him go there and then do so well with the Packers or with the Vikings and just to rub it in Jets fans' faces. Like, I'm really happy personally with what the Jets have done so far. We've gotten 3 players. The biggest one that I love is Justin Fields. I've been calling for him all off season. And people were like, don't take him. He can't throw the ball. The only thing, he's a glorified running back. And no, if you look at Justin Fields last year, he was 4-2 with the Pittsburgh Steelers and got benched for Russell Wilson, who I don't think that was really on him. I think the whole plan for Pittsburgh was to go to Russell Wilson anyway. The problem was Justin Fields made it so hard for them because they were winning games and he was beating good teams. Now, Pittsburgh really shot themselves in the foot because I really think they thought they were going to get Justin Fields back. And he's just like, nah. Then he got a great contract offer from the Jets. They reunited him with Garrett Wilson and Jeremy Ruckert, which I really love. There's talks now about possibly trading for Chris Olave, which I think that would be solid. The problem is the concussions. The guy's got so many concussions. If they traded for him, I think that would be awesome. But my biggest plan for the Jets, I think we should really trade back and get Emeka Egbuka. I think that kid's going to be the best receiver in the draft. But with free agency so far, it's been so crazy because we knew Justin Fields was coming to the Jets. That was the biggest thing. And then we got, what did we get? We got Brandon Stevens from the Ravens to replace DJ Reed, who got a monster contract from Detroit, which was really cool. I'm happy for him. But this guy, Ravens fans couldn't have been happier to see this guy go away. And I'm like, all right, this doesn't bode well for the Jets, but the Ravens fans were the same way for John Simpson. And as we know now, John Simpson was a beast for the Jets last year. And I'm really excited to see what this kid can do as our starting number 2 cornerback. And alongside of that, the Jets just keep getting younger. They got Andre Sisco from the Jaguars, 24 years old as a safety, big thumper guy, ball hawk. I'm really happy with what the Jets have done, but we still have so many glaring needs. Defensive tackle. We've got 2 receivers we need. We need another safety. We could use a right tackle. We need so much. And I don't know what is going on right now with Darren Muji, what his plan is, really.
Yeah, and back up a little bit on like the Justin Fields thing. I think the big deciding factor, obviously, besides him wanting to go somewhere that he can actually start, which obviously there was still some, gray area there with the Steelers as we're having right now with, possibly signing Rodgers or even signing Russell Wilson back. We don't know if even signing their veteran quarterback is going to solve their issue or they're going to still have another rookie quarterback brought in. But also he was, the deal was there for him. He's got the familiarity with the roster, as you were just saying. And yeah, it was a team that actually wanted him. Did the Steelers actually want him, or did the Steelers also just want to sign him to not make them look like, the bad guy in the situation? But again, I wouldn't want to sign if I felt like my job wasn't secure at that point. So I say it was a good move all in all for both sides on that. And the deal you guys got, it was like 2 for $40. That's pennies. And I still would rather have him over, Sam Darnold or Geno Smith. It's mind-boggling.
It's crazy, and Jets fans saw that and they're like, wow, that's a lot of big contract. But if you look at it, he's getting paid $8.5 million this first year. And that he's the 21st largest contract for a quarterback in the league. So honestly, I'm really happy that we got him for that money. Yeah, we have a void year for him, which is going to cost us, but if we cut him, we don't really lose that much. Also, I think the Jets really also like Jalen Milroe, who I think could be a sneaky pick for the Steelers in the first round. I think that's who they're going for. Yeah. It's a worry that he's been mocked there for a while. Or do the Steelers go for Jackson Dart, who I think is going to be a really, really good quarterback. You just don't know really what's going to happen in this draft. But free agency, like I said, has been wild so far. And I've just been so excited to see what's going on with these teams. Has there been a team that you've been very impressed with what they've been doing?
There's a couple. Overall, team itself, I do like what the Patriots have been doing. Obviously, they had the money, so they could go around spending it. And the last time I will mention Dan Moore until football season starts is the fact that Morgan Moses went for 3 years, $24 million. Granted, he is up there in age, but we are now spending nearly 3-4 times as much money on an unproven lineman. So I think you couldn't splurge an extra, couple mil then you try to get Morgan Moses into it, but I think again that also has to come with the tenuredness of that organization. You have Mike Vrabel in, who has proven to be a player's coach. You have an organization proved on winning, so I think Patriots are definitely moving up in the direction of becoming at least AFC East contenders again, because I do think Buffalo's going to slip down a little bit. They're kind of in the trap with the cap room issues and stuff like that, and they're trying to make a little bit of moves. But for themselves, the Jets, these are teams that are moving up in the AFC East. So I have liked what they've been doing, and a underappreciated signing I think has been, if we go to the AFC West, and I'm looking at Ufunga going to the Broncos. Yeah. I honestly think that that's been the most underrated signing so far in free agency. You already have a top 5 defense in the Broncos, and now you're signing, again, Ufunga coming from the 49ers to help with that defensive backfield. When we did our first pre-draft, I said, if we're looking at the Falcons or possibly the Broncos could be one of those 2 teams that could draft, I think it's Will Johnson. Yeah. It's like to help solidify be their number 2 cornerbacks, and I still think that maybe the Broncos do that if you can fall past the Falcons, or the Cowboys are also in need of defensive back. I honestly think the Broncos, they're again a veteran receiver away from really making a big strong move in that AFC West to possibly be division contenders, because I think the Chiefs, last year's crack, the Chiefs are going to start falling after last year. I honestly believe in that.
I think so too. I've been shocked with what the Chiefs have been doing. They're signing their own. I love them re-signing Nick Bolton. He was somebody that I really wanted. But I do want to recognize the first chat. Danger Zones, thank you. You are the first comment on my first live stream. So thank you so much. If you guys don't know Danger Zone, he does a really, really cool podcast on YouTube where he hosts a lot of different NFL teams. And he goes into a lot of great depth with players, everything like that. He's a wonderful, wonderful individual. I'm looking forward to working with him coming up soon, hopefully with this offseason. But he says, gentlemen, plus Moses was low guaranteed money, which is wise with his age. I'm really, really annoyed that the Patriots got Morgan Moses. I really wanted him back for the Jets, because I thought if we got him back for a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, and then drafted somebody like Membao in the first round, or my favorite guy, Ozzie Trapillo, who I think is going to be a stalwart right tackle in the NFL, day 1 starter. I hate to see him going to the Patriots, but I will say one thing about the Patriots signings. I am a Jet fan. I do not like the Patriots, but they have been getting a lot of solid players. Harold Landry, I think, was a steal for them. I thought they got a really, really great player. Morgan Moses as well. They traded away Devin Godchow to the Saints, which I didn't like, because that guy was a stalwart on that team, never got hurt. The Patriots are replacing these guys with older players who have injury histories and very recent injury histories. So they're going for very, very solid players, but the injuries can cost them very, very much. And that's what I'm worried about when you got like Morgan Moses, who was playing, he plays through injury, but it is something scary, especially with Harold Landry. As you know, as a Titan fan, that guy has had some serious injuries. When he's on the field, he's a stud, but man, he is somebody who you got to worry. You got to worry about some of it.
Yeah, Landry, as a Titans fan, I watch a lot of them, obviously. He did disappear a lot last year. I don't know if it was really the defensive scheme, but now that, him following back up with Mike Vrabel, and Vrabel loved, obviously, all of the Titans players around, obviously, had demanded trades and whatnot from last year. I'm not surprised that they're going back to now New England to follow up with him because, again, he's such a highly respected players coach that I think that him running with the scheme with Vrabel, I think, was a really good pickup for him. He's not your typical 3-down linebacker, but again, he does help out even a little bit in the passing game. He's a pretty good run stuffer. So overall, I think it was a decent signing for them. Again, he just hasn't been the same since his torn ACL from 2 years ago. But no, I like I said, the Patriots are making moves, and it's nice to have that extra money to go with them. But I honestly think that this definitely, the way that they're going, I think it solidifies the Travis Hunter draft pick if he falls to number 3 or number 4.
Yeah. And big news too, if the 49ers are signing a new receiver, DeMarcus Robinson, 2 years, $9.5 million for Adam Schefter. And before I get to that, Danger Zone, thank you so much for joining us. And you are doing a wonderful job as well. I appreciate you. Keep up the good work, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Danger Zone as well. He does great work. All right. But Debo left the Niners. They traded him away. Do you think DeMarcus Robinson will be a good replacement for him? Because DeMarcus Robinson's good, but I don't think he's Debo level.
Definitely not Debo level, just for a simple fact that Debo could literally mow through linebackers.
Right.
But it was a piece that's needed. They needed another yards after catch guy, and depending on how Ayuk comes back, he might even start maybe in the pup list. So they're going to definitely need some sort of weapon there. And I think a lot of the teams are afraid of these veteran receivers, as you can see. The ones that are available have been injury riddled lately. So, Stephon Diggs coming off the ACL, wrist injury for Amari Cooper, and how much money that they're going to demand. So I think, these guys that they're getting for below $10 million for a couple years seems to be a decent pick. And I think Ricky Pearsall actually showed at the end of last year with, both Ayuk and Debo being out, that he showed that he could be a decent number 2 option, and I really do like Jawan Jennings for them. He balled out last year, so it was a different, a desperate, not a desperate need for a receiver, but I think it was a decent pickup for him.
I think it'll be solid, but he's another guy who disappears every now and again. Going back to Ricky Pearsall, I love the player. I think he came on strong last year, reminded me a lot of Ladd McConkey for the Chargers, I think he's going to be a beast as well.
Yeah.
Going to another team that I think has been killing it so far. How about the Minnesota Vikings? They're beefing up that defensive line. Jonathan Allen today they got Javon Hargrave as well. 2 stalwart defensive tackles. Nobody's going to be able to run on them. And with that defense run by Robert Flores, the biggest issue was their run defense. Now they got 2 guys that are going to rush the passer and stop that run. So Minnesota has been very, very impressive too. Now, they almost got Devon Holland today, but he refused the bigger contract to go to them. I don't know why, because he had his best seasons under Brian Flores and ended up going to the Giants, which I thought, well, that was a solid move. They lost Cam Bynum too to the Colts. So their secondary is getting depleted a little bit, but also, are they bringing Harrison Smith back? There's still questions on that defense that they have and on the offense. They're beefing up the offensive line as well, stealing Ryan Kelly from the Colts and the guard too, Chris Fries, I think his name was. But that offensive line is getting much better for the Colts too, especially if you have a young quarterback like J.J. McCarthy starting next year. The Vikings have been doing some really good things.
Yeah, saying a lot of defensive linemen wanting to play for Brian Flores as well too, because he knows how to get to the quarterback, and that defensive line that was actually pretty solid last year, just getting any better. It's going to be needed. That's why you see that the Bears are trying to make moves for offensive linemen. The Packers are certainly going to be in the running, trying to get another offensive lineman as they've been aging. Vikings ain't going anywhere anytime soon. And again, if they could get the kind of quarterback play out of J.J. McCarthy as they did at Sam Darnold, I could easily see these guys being NFC North contenders again next year.
Yeah, they just seem to be getting better and better. Their coach is really, really good. I'm interested to see the Packers as well because Jordan Love, I really like him, but he is so he can make amazing plays and then all of a sudden just boom, interception. And he makes the costly interceptions as well, which is really bad. But yeah. I think that division is going to be awesome next year, especially with the moves the Bears have making. Their offensive line is completely reworked, and if you give Caleb Williams an offensive line that he didn't have last year, clean pocket, that kid can make some plays, honestly. And he's still got weapons. I think they bring back Keenan Allen on a 1-year deal because he's still out there. There's still a ton of awesome free agents out there. Is there anybody that you're looking at that would be good fits for a team? Like I know you mentioned Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen's out there, Jedrick Wills is still there. Like, are there any free agents that you're keeping a close eye on?
I know rumor has it that Amari Cooper possibly going to be going to the Broncos. I know that, again, they've been looking at a veteran receiver, as we just kind of talked about. Shocking that Cam Robinson is still out. I don't know if it maybe is the asking price that he's looking for, but even if he is just an above average left tackle last year, his stats showed, I still think that a team could possibly use him, possibly the Titans, but, we're going to go elsewhere. Tevin Jenkins is still out there. Who else was out there still? I mean, if somebody wants to take a flyer on Calais Campbell, give him another year. I think he could work for defensive tackle for another team. I do like what the Bears have been doing. Again, they've been solidifying the need. I think what the Bears are also doing is solidifying the offensive line in free agency, and they're going to be charging up for Ashton Genty in the first round of the draft. I think they're going to give them another playmaker for, especially if they're not going to bring back Keenan Allen, which I don't see them doing. Like I said, I think Ashton Genty might be the Bears next, might be the Bears running back. So
he could.
It's interesting. Like I said, I do think the Bears, on my top 4 free agent moves or free agent teams this year, I had the Bears as number 3. Along with the Patriots, Steelers, and the Broncos on my end. So, like I said, I think they're making a good moves. I do like the Grady Jarrett pickup.
That was a solid pickup.
Much bigger gain for the Bears or a much bigger loss for the Falcons and a bigger gain for the Bears. I don't know what the Falcons already having the defensive rushing or defensive line issues for so many years. You're now giving up your top defensive lineman. I didn't understand that move at all.
The biggest thing, too, is Grady Jarrett wanted to be with a winning team. The Falcons, They were so up and down. And now I say winning team. He's going to Chicago. But with all the moves that Chicago has made and with Ben Johnson as their new head coach, it could completely change for them. They could flip just like how the Commanders did last year, especially if they can get Caleb Williams right, which I think Ben Johnson can do. We'll have to see. Yeah. One team that I'm concerned about, I have no idea what the Texans are doing. They're demolishing their offensive line. They got rid of Kenyon Green. They traded him for CJ Gardner-Johnson for the Eagles today and a couple draft picks. But you bulked up your defense, which is great. But you got nobody blocking for CJ Stroud, and that was a big issue for you guys last year. The biggest move that they did today was getting Laken Tomlinson as the replacement for Kenyon Green. I have no idea what the Texans are doing, honestly. I'm very confused.
And the last bit of anybody watching any Texans game last year was them getting absolutely manhandled in Arrowhead with no offensive line. Granted, yes, the fans were crying for the ref games and, all the bad calls, but there was no way that team was going to prevent the Chiefs from rushing. I mean, Karlaftis, I think, had 2.5 sacks, 3 sacks, I think, in that game. Yeah. Chris Jones was just completely taking out the whole interior offensive line the whole game. And for them to trade Tunsil, and you're signing now receivers that have been injury-riddled to replace injury-riddled receivers. I don't understand that. As we talked before, the Christian Kirk's trade was just baffling because now you're taking a $16 million cap hit this year, and you're replacing Tank Dell, who's not playing this year, replacing him with a receiver that hasn't played a full season in the last 3 years. So I just don't know. I mean, I know they want to be defensive oriented. But yeah, you're just making it rough for CJ Stroud and Joe Mixon because, if you think about it, the rushing attack wasn't nearly. I mean, Joe Mixon had some good games, but at the end of the season, he kind of tapered off. And I think that, not fixing that offensive line. If they don't go offensive line in the draft, I'd be absolutely shocked.
It's worrisome because once you get past Will Campbell and Armand Membo, I think those guys go really high. And the Texans are further down in the draft. They're either going to have to trade up for a good offensive lineman. Banks might fall, but yeah, I don't know. Offensive linemen, especially the tackle class this year, is not the best. Ozzie Trapilo might move up. I think he's going to be really good.
I think after Banks, those being my top 3 tackles as well, it's a cliff jump. Because I don't think Donovan Jackson, he didn't show too well in the combine. He actually looked like he was kind of hurt and training through injuries. So that's always scary, especially to get offensive linemen. And usually they say offensive linemen and receivers, if they start off in training camp, they usually start off slow going into the season. So that's something to look forward to as far as that. But yeah, it's like he's already kind of dropped down in my draft board. I have him actually going down to number 31 to the Chiefs right now, Donovan Jackson. So, but yeah, I think they're going to have to trade up, I think. But luckily, I think teams that they're competing with to get an offensive tackle, like the Bears, who have been solidifying something, that's another team that's going to fall down. So there is a chance that maybe Kelvin Banks does fall to them in the 22, 23 spot, I think.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, so, there's a chance, but a lot has to do with Genty because it looks like the same 3 teams that are going for offensive linemen, running backs, and a defensive back. You got the Bears, the Cowboys, the Steelers. They all need an offensive lineman too. So it's like the same 3 teams along with the Texans. They're all going after the same players. It's hilarious. So the same team needs in the same spots, but
and you can always use more linemen no matter what. The best teams are the ones who are able to get like steals in the late round, who can pick a 4th round lineman and have them starting within a year or that season. Look at the Chiefs with Trey Smith. The guy was drafted so late and he was expected to be a tackle. They moved him to guard and he was one of the best guards in football, so much so that they brought him back. There's so many things that these teams can do and find. Like, this draft is going to be really interesting, and there's so many more moves to be made in free agency. Like, tomorrow we can officially sign players. That's when I feel like a lot of these teams are going to be making big moves. And I'm excited to see what is going to be happening. Like, the Jets still need tight end. They still need 2 receivers. They still need a right tackle. They still need defensive tackles and a defensive end too. And maybe another linebacker. There's so many different things, and safety. There's so many needs that the Jets have that a lot of them, I see them on X, they're questioning, what is Muji doing? And I'm just sitting back, just being calm, because the 3 moves that they've made, I understand. I like I'm still questioning the Stevens one, but I'm going to hold out hope that this defensive staff knows what they're doing with Wilkes and AG. But it's been so chaotic so far with everything going on and the shocks that have happened. Like, before the free agency tampering period started to now as well, with team where players are going. Did not expect Javon Holland to go to the Giants for sure. I did not think he was going to go there. But before we get into anything else, we have 11 people in the stream. If you guys want to be heard, make sure you guys comment down below. We would love to hear from you guys as well. Is there anything you want to say? Is there any players that you are shocked are still out there? Are there any players that you are shocked didn't get paid as much or who got overpaid? Let us hear from you guys as well. We love having you guys here. We're just enjoying it. Make sure you let your voices heard as well. All right. So going back to it as well, like, I don't understand the contract Javon Kinlaw got, and then his comment cut the tape to basically look like what he said. I'm just like, dude, you don't want to look at that tape last year.
No.
You disappeared the whole year and then made boneheaded mistakes. You were like Michael Clemens last year, who I'm still shocked is on the Jets. But then sorry.
Oh no, so yeah, from following you guys now and listening a little bit more to the Jets talk and stuff, I've heard nothing but bad news with him. So say run blocking or run defense was just not there. So yeah, I kind of figured somebody was gonna take a dagger at him and overpay you, and looked like he got his money.
Yeah, he got a lot of money.
shocked.
Good for him. Maybe Dan Quinn can do something with him, but we had Robert Saleh who worked with him in San Francisco, and Robert Saleh couldn't do anything with him. So we'll see what happens with him. The guy has all the talent in the world. It's just, can he utilize it? That's the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. But like players like Javon Holland didn't get as big a contract as everybody thought. Melifonwu, who went to the Dolphins, didn't get a big contract. He only got a 1-year deal. And there's some players who I'm like, wow, they got a monster contract. They definitely got overpaid. And then there are some just like, why do you get paid so little? And Melifonwu from the Dolphins is somebody who I thought would have been paid a ton more and would have gotten a longer deal as well. I'm shocked he only got 1 year. Same with Andre Cisco. But is there anybody you're shocked about with contract wise, happy for, upset with, or like, I know you guys upset with your linemen, but any other teams?
There's a couple. I did think that Darius Slayton re-signing with the Giants kind of surprised me a little bit. But I knew that they're desperate for a receiver help too. Besides Malik Neighbors, they obviously had to have that number 2 kind of solidified. So I was kind of shocked that he got as big of a deal as he's gotten. I think he had 3 year 36 he got for. So that was kind of surprising that he actually re-signed with the Giants. Another one that I did like was Najee Harris. That's a good fill-in spot, even for just a 1-year deal with the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to be very much like the 49ers, they're just going to substitute running backs every single year. That's going to be such a run-heavy offense. They're going to be able to plug and play some players. I wouldn't be surprised if they even bring back J.K. Dobbins on a 1-year deal if he can. Just to kind of help solidify that. It even shows again that this team might be another team in the running back sweepstakes that we're looking for in the draft. But yeah, I did like the Najee deal. Didn't have to spend too much. I think it was like a little over $9 million, I believe it was total with the it was 5.5 guaranteed and $9 million total. So yeah, I thought that was a good deal. A surprising one that I also saw was the Elijah Mitchell pickup for the 49ers. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire having his own mental issues. I didn't think that he would obviously be the future. There was never draft capital for Isaiah Pacheco either, so I thought that was pretty surprising. They're going to be a rotating running back offense again, like we kind of saw last year when Pacheco came back from injury, and he just didn't look good after he came back from injury. So I obviously, with no draft capital really there for him, I could see them kind of looking forward later in the draft too, maybe looking at like RJ Harvey, somebody along there, like round 3 or 4 in the draft. So that was actually pretty surprising. Let me just double check here. The Jaguars, I didn't see really anything with them. And the Colts signing Daniel Jones. Obviously, there's going to be a quarterback battle in that room. They've already kind of said we need to bring in somebody to compete with Anthony Richardson. It's going to be interesting to see if it was the Giants organization playing in New York is the reason for why Daniel Jones wasn't as what he was hoped for when he came out of the draft. I know a lot of people weren't big on him to begin with, playing from Duke. But yeah, I think that's going to be a fun one to see. And I honestly think he would probably beat out Anthony Richardson as well.
I think so too. I think he fits that system a lot better. Mm-hmm. And he's not afraid to stay in the pocket. He'll run if he has to. He's got athleticism, but he's not, if his first read's not open, he's not going to bail. Anthony Richardson seemed to do that a lot last year. And it's been rumors that they're trying to trade him as well. So the Giants were mocked to have him, Steelers as well. Any team that needs a quarterback, really. Anthony Richardson, they were talking about Anthony Richardson being traded to them, that they're the co-favorites. And Anthony Richardson scares me. Another player like Jalen Milroe terrifies me. Both of them have so much talent and so much arm strength, can you put it together? And that's what freaks me out about Anthony Richardson, is that when he first came in, he looked so good and could make the deep throws. But then it just, he regressed and regressed and regressed, and then taking himself out of the game and being benched for Flacco, and then coming in and not playing as well. He was a glorified running back for the Colts. I hope he can turn it around. I really like him. I think he could do really, really well, but it's not looking good for him when your team is bringing Daniel Jones, who can be athletic and has a decent arm. I think he's going to take your position right away.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting to see exactly what they do with Anthony Richardson, because I guess I could see a team taking a late flyer to even trade for him. Like you said, just have a depth piece there, and he might be even a trade deadline casualty at this point coming up this year.
Yeah, and big news too for the Steelers. They are signing running back Kenneth Gainwell.
All right.
So another running back, they replace Najee with Kenneth Gainwell. I love Gainwell. I think he's very underutilized, especially in the Eagles' running back room with all the talent they have there. I think he's going to be really, really good for the Steelers. Again, they need to figure out who the quarterback is.
Mm.
And good for Gainwell. I don't know the numbers yet for him, but it's looking pretty good for him. I'm happy he was able to find a team right off the bat. So that's really good for him.
That'll be a good change of pace guy. They need to replace Jalen Warren as well too. So that'd be a nice pickup for him.
I think so.
Hopefully he can stay healthy, because he looked kind of banged up by the end of the season last year. So hopefully he comes back healthy and strong for them. But that's a decent pickup for him.
And the biggest thing too is he's really good at catching the ball out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to run a power run offense, that's not the type of offense you want for him. You need him to get outside a lot. You need him doing swing routes. You need him doing so many different things where he can utilize his speed. And that's what I'm really hoping what the Jets do with Breece Hall, because he can do all of that stuff. He can be a power back or he can run outside. But Kenny Gainwell, I'm really happy that he's ended up in Pittsburgh right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's good for him. 1-year deal for him.
And the other big news with trades this free agency week was the Browns finally getting their 2022 first round draft pick back to pick Kenny Pickett.
I couldn't believe it.
The future is here for the Cleveland Browns.
Now,
Super Bowl winning quarterback.
He's got a ring. Poor Browns fans.
Somebody with leadership and a ring to lead the charge, and they finally did it with Kenny Pickett.
I'm so proud of them. They're doing it, guys. They're doing it. If you're a Browns fan, you got your quarterback.
Man, what another quarterback room mess. I really want them to go back for Joe Flacco.
I really hope they do, because Joe Flacco did so many great things for them. The thing that I'm worried about, they're gonna be bargain bin shopping, because that contract, and it gets me so frustrated when players come out and say, I want to win. I want to go to a winning team. I've been on this team. I've given everything I've had. I want to go and win.
Mm-hmm.
And then they let the money talk. Myles Garrett. I love Myles Garrett, but dude, you came out and said, and you were headstrong, you don't want to be traded, or you want to be traded. You don't want to stay in Cleveland. You want to go somewhere you can win. And then they give you a monster contract and you're all cool with it. Like, how are your teammates going to sit there and respect you? You're supposed to be a leader in that locker room. I know it's a business and stuff like that, but if it was a teammate of mine, I'm just like, damn, like, you wanted to get up out of here because you didn't think we were good enough to win. And now it's like, now you're here and you're going to try to be a leader. How does he get people to follow him again? That's going to be the biggest challenge for him, I think.
I mean, unless he thought
he may have overheard that there was a trade rumor with Kenny Pickett, that he thought that was the key to the success. And he's like, just owe me the money now. But no, I 100% agree with you there. It's just, I mean, I understand his standpoint. If you are not showing me anything that you're going to one, trade me, to lead us any direction will go towards playoff contention, you better overpay me to the point that, it'll somewhat make me a reasoning for why I should play here. And
they did. They gave him the bag. They gave him the bag. Good for him. I'm happy for him. What would have been so funny if they didn't trade for Pickett Imagine they signed Mason Rudolph.
Yeah. Imagine the practice scrums with that.
Oh my God. But I think the Browns can do something. They got a solid defense. Like, they have talent. Jerry Jeudy came out last year, popped. Elijah Moore is a free agent for them this year. So it's, do they bring him back? Do they try to go after a wide receiver? And Danger Zone said, I would play barefoot on glass for $40 million a year, though. I definitely would too. I would sign up for that.
Yeah, playing some hot coal.
Man, the guy got paid. I'm happy for him, but man, not a good look for your locker room.
And the Browns funny part with them, ever since they got rid of Baker Mayfield, how they've replaced him with nothing but gunslingers. Like you've had that position drafted with Baker Mayfield, who was doing this, who's giving you the same, who would have given you guys the same production out of Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco. It's just cursed. They're just cursed, man. It's
just like, and Baker wanted to stay, and he was struggling. You were making him force feed the ball to Odell Beckham a lot of the time there. And you separated Jarvis Landry when he was there as well, Baker and him had a big connection. And at the end of Baker's tenure with the Browns, he was injured a lot of the time. His shoulder was really bothering him, and they were so quick to ship him off to Carolina, where, all right, he didn't have the best, but you also brought in competition with Sam Darnold. You brought in, who's the other quarterback they had there that was okay? I don't remember what his name was, but he came in and won a couple games for him as well. But Baker, you look at him now, sometimes it takes quarterbacks years to get right. Like Baker Mayfield led the league in touchdowns last year. Sam Darnold brought the Vikings to the playoffs. You see what Geno Smith is doing? Getting extension, getting back with his old coach in Las Vegas now. Justin Fields could turn around too. There are so many times when people give up so quick on these quarterbacks because it's a win now league. You gotta win right away. And if you don't give these quarterbacks time to just sit behind a veteran or to learn the game, to let them process it, you're bound to fail. And that's what separates the good teams like the Ravens, who are always in the playoffs. Look what they did with Lamar Jackson. They took him in the late rounds, or they took him in the first round later in the first round. They let him sit behind Flacco. When Flacco went down with an injury, they eased him in. They made plays for him that will show off his athleticism. They let him run the ball, and then they worked with him. And when they saw that he was ready, they let him shine, and they brought in pieces to surround him with. Now, they haven't always brought him in the best receivers, but they brought in pieces that can let him shine. And look at Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. That kid coming out of college, nobody thought he was going to be really good. He just couldn't throw the ball when he was at Alabama. And then he went to Oklahoma and he got a little better. But then he went to the Eagles and you didn't know what he was. You had Carson Wentz still there, who was just becoming a complete disaster. And then you let him in and you brought pieces around him. You got A.J. Brown. You got Smith for him to throw to. You got Goddard to throw to, who I don't think is going to be with the Eagles anymore. I think they might have released him at this point, or they're planning on releasing him. When you rush players in, like Sam Darnold with the Jets, Zach Wilson with the Jets, you rush them in and you don't let them process, they're setting them up to fail. And I'm glad that Sam Darnold's coming around and playing better. I'm interested to see what he does in Seattle, but now he only has Jackson Smith and Jigba to throw to. So you don't know what's going to happen there. And Noah Fant as the tight end. So you don't know what's going to happen there. Zach Wilson went to Miami to back up Tua. So you know he's going to play at some point because Tua can't stay healthy. You got to give these younger quarterbacks. And that's what I'm worried about with Shador and Cam Ward, and especially Jackson Dart. These quarterbacks need to sit for a year, especially in this draft, which is weaker in quarterbacks. And I think you're going to rush these guys in. I don't know if the Titans draft Cam Ward. If they do you let him sit behind Will Levis and deal with the growing pains, or do you try to rush him in? It's a tough thing to say.
Yep, it's two things. It's the outlier quarterbacks, your CJ Stroud, your Josh Allen's, these guys that were taken in the first rounds of drafts that came out excelling and dominating the league from the get-go. I mean, obviously Josh Allen, when he first started, he had his accuracy issues. But he was thrown in there and people saw the potential right away. So they had to, teams think that they also don't need to bring a quarterback in and fill up what they need to surround that quarterback. They want to feel like their coaches have those egos where they think their philosophy is where they need to be. Just look at Matt Nagy and what he did with Justin Fields. If Justin Fields was drafted by a Ravens team that didn't have Lamar Jackson, I feel like Justin Fields would be what Lamar Jackson is right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens changed the whole offensive dynamic from play action pass, throw the ball deep from Joe Flacco to literally a RPO system fitting the needs of Lamar Jackson. And now look at where your Ravens are. They're competing in an AFC championship every single year. So it's just an ego thing with the coaches. And again, the win now mentality, the coaches have the win now mentality because they know that their drafts, they only got 2 year shelf life, especially if you're brand new. I mean, you look at the list of coaches that have only been around for a couple of years or, the first stints. If they ain't making the playoffs in the first 2-3 years, they're gone.
It's the stability. That's the biggest thing. If you come into a bad organization, Justin Fields is a great example. He started out with Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy gets fired right away. You bring in a defensive coach, Matt Eberflus, and he struggles, never gets him on. Then you trade him away to the Steelers, and you're benched after going 4-2, which I didn't think was right. And your offensive coordinator was arguing to get Fields back in because he thought Arthur Smith liked Fields more than Wilson. And it was just a power struggle. It's teams not believing in their young talent. Imagine if Josh Allen, when he got drafted, started showing the accuracy issues right away, like you said, and they fired their head coach. They gave up on him. What could he have become? Mm-hmm. You need stability. You need to have faith in your football people that they're going to get these guys right. Like, hell, they got Jaden Daniels up in Washington, and they gave him Cliff Kingsbury as his offensive coordinator, who is a quarterback guru, that's been said. You gave him a defensive coach, but you let Cliff Kingsbury work with him. And he dominated this year. He was awesome. And now what they're doing is they're giving him more weapons. Debo coming in. You got an offensive line that's going to protect for you. Laramie Tunsil going to the Commanders is an awesome thing because now you have a solid left tackle who's going to stay healthy, who's going to keep you clean. They're doing things that are building around him, and it's just going to make the Commanders better and better. Unlike the Cowboys, too, and I hate to bring them up because I don't mind the Cowboys. They don't do anything. They're not doing anything. They brought in Solomon Thomas today, who, as a Jets fan, I loved him. He was a great leader, great locker room guy, but he's a rotational piece. Mm-hmm. And it's just like these teams are making decisions that they have the cap space to spend, but they're not doing the obvious things that they're supposed to. And I'm saying the obvious things, like, hell, who am I? I'm not a GM. I'm not a coach. I'm a fan. But, like, fans are seeing this stuff. And what's the message you're sending to your players and your teams for not going out and trying to win and stuff like that? And that's what this time period is for, legal tampering, to go out and get the best talent for your team and to get the needs that you have so that you can supplement through the draft. And a lot of these teams, you just look at them and are like, what the heck are you doing?
No, 100% agree. And I think with the Cowboys too, it's the philosophy that they feel like they still need to develop within their own system. But there's an issue with the Cowboys too, is that, they're always contenders. So they have to capitalize on a very terrible year and get that, top edge rusher in a draft or top offensive weapon in a draft, but they're usually in mid-pack. So it's like they can't get the elite guys that can kind of take the upper echelon. So they should be a team making moves in the trade deadlines and the free agency, but they're just never so. But yeah, like and it's funny, like you brought up with like Solomon Thomas, like helping being like a leader or whatnot for the Cowboys. But if another thing with like the Steelers did the same thing, making a move for Darius Slay. And I think that a key thing for Darius Slay was that he was brought in a couple years ago with the Eagles, obviously, to help reshaping up that defensive backcourt, but he wasn't the big defensive back name for that roster last year. It was the rookies. I mean, yeah, you had your leadership piece to help mold that defensive backcourt, but now at the Steelers, with a Joey Porter Jr., now has Darius Slay in the backfield helping him out, giving him some little bit of like knowledge and whatnot to look forward to become a super elite defensive back. That's a smart move. Now you bring in Solomon Thomas for the Cowboys, and you're not – who is he – there's nobody else there on the pass rushing side besides Michael Parsons, who is ego to his own self that, there's no other guys that he's going to help developing in that system. So
one thing, Rich,
I
think your father's going to be happy. According to Adam Schefter, 5-time Pro Bowl defensive end Joey Bosa reached an agreement tonight on a 1-year, $12.6 million deal with the Buffalo Bills.
That's a good move. They needed that.
They did. They cut Von Miller, and now you replace him with a stud. And kudos to Buffalo. They've been making plays, man. The contract to Josh Allen, I thought was a little bit ridiculous with having 4 more years left on his contract. But you're locking him down. I can understand that. But they're supplementing their team with pieces that they need. And bringing in a player like Bosa, I honestly thought he was going to go to the Niners to play with his brother. But this is a great
that's what a lot of people were hoping.
Good for them.
No, I think that's a really good move. And I think what the Bills lacked last year was size and being physical. Their defense was okay at times. They obviously could beat up on the lighter competition, but when it came down to it, they needed to get physical, and they lacked the size. They were pretty much steamrolled through by running backs the whole season. Ed Oliver, who I do like, who they compare him a lot with Aaron Donald as far as like the size. He just doesn't have the strength like Aaron Donald. He could plug up some holes and take 2-man coverage, but he's not nearly as much as what Aaron Donald is, much as Bills fans like to think of. But I think Bosa is a really good signing. Obviously, if he stays healthy, that could be a really good, solid pickup. And like you were just saying, they're smart with what they're spending the money on. Another underrated pickup was Josh Palmer. A guy, probably one of the top route runners in the free agency class and getting separation. Obviously, stats aren't going to show it, but the Chargers didn't throw the ball last year. And they had Ladd McConkey, so they did have other weapons. And I think when Josh Palmer had to step up, he did. And you remember a couple years ago, he stepped up a lot when, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams went down. He showed out some games, and I was shocked that he kind of just went outside on free agency, and the Chargers didn't think to re-sign him. But no, I think the Bills, what they're doing, spending with limited cap room that they do have, I think is very smart. And I think the deal with Josh Allen was more so to help sell the PSLs for the new stadium.
Probably. And that's the
solidify it, but you got to bring a championship to Buffalo.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, you're supplementing players. Joey Bosa, great leader, great player on the field. Third downs, he's a menace, honestly. Mm-hmm. But you brought up Josh Palmer, and that was a target the Jets really wanted, or Jets fans really wanted. The kid's 25. You go from the Chargers, who are a run-first team, and he was solid at blocking. He made plays when he needed to, and he's tough as hell to bring down. You got a young player who I think is going to supplement and be such a key piece for the Buffalo Bills, because he's going to complement Khalil Shakir. He's going to complement Coleman as well. You got a young receiving core there that they can grow together and play well together for years to come, especially when you got Allen throwing you the ball and you got a good tight end duo as well. Like Kincaid is a monster and Knox is solid as well. So they're bringing in this youth movement for Buffalo with the weapons, and it's something that they always do so well with, bringing these underrated players in and doing well with them. They whiffed on Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper didn't play well last year for them, but they tried, and they're making the moves to try to make their team better. And that's just something I do commend the Bills for, which is really good for them. But bringing in Joey Bosa, that's a great move for them.
Yeah, I'm excited for what Buffalo is doing, and like we talked on the top of the hour, I think the Chiefs they're on the decline. I think.
I did like the Nick Bolton re-signing. I think that was a must. Them letting go of Justin Reed was kind of surprising. You know, I think that the defensive back is going to need to be kind of fixed on a little bit in the draft, since I saw that they re-signed Trey Smith. So I was thinking maybe O-line would be the key to go to in the draft, but yeah, I think they're going to need to solidify the defensive back core, because the Bengals, if they could do something defensively, they're going to be on the up and up. The Steelers, if they get, like I said, an Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be on the up and up. The Ravens are already going to be there. The Bills are going to be there. The AFC teams are getting better. So, and even the AFC North or the AFC West. I mean, granted, yeah, Geno isn't the more surprising, or has been the more surprising pickup so far in free agency through the trade, but it's better than what the Raiders had. I mean,
right.
You remember, you're coming off of Aiden O'Connell, or can't think of his name right now with the long hair, but but yeah, I mean, the teams in that own division are
Gardner Minshew. You were thinking,
yes, Gardner Minshew. Thank you. Broncos they already have a top 5 defense. They're just a couple big plays away and competent offensive stretch for Bo Nix away from being possibly even a team that could have really spoiled a lot of things last year in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
So it's interesting. Like I said, I don't think the Chiefs are set out to be a 16-win team again going into the playoffs next year. They may even be on the cusp of not even making the playoffs next year.
And it's so tough. More news in. I was just reading this. Apparently, I don't know how true it is, but the Chiefs and Commanders illegally tampered with Ravens tackle Ronnie Stanley by making him offers before he re-signed with Baltimore.
All right.
So I don't know how true it is. Apparently, Kansas City offered him around $20 million, and Washington gave him an offer of over $24 million a year. So if that's true, that could be pretty bad for those teams.
And how bad is it that you're illegally trying to send offers out and you still aren't the first ones to get this deal done?
Yeah, right.
But that's so obviously then Chiefs are still in the hunt then for offensive line help. So maybe a Cam Robinson going there. I mean, that would be a good landing spot, I think, for them. They'll need another veteran there, but they're aging. And another funny thing with the Chiefs too is with the Xavier Worthy news that came out a couple of days ago and them not re-signing D-Hop is they're looking for receiving help again. The ageless wonder that is Travis Kelce now, are they going to make him, be a guy that's waiting on until the back half of the season to go off again, and they're going to rest him up early in the beginning of the season? Or, are they a team now that will be putting their hands in the basket to make a move up in the draft to make go after one of these top couple receivers? Like I said, it's not looking too promising for the Chiefs besides, the Nick Bolton signing that they got. But
I do love that signing. But again, yeah, they need a lot of help. They do. Yeah. Re-signing Marquise Brown, solid. Mm-hmm. Who's your big receiver? Yeah. Who is that? That's why I thought trading for DK would have been a solid play for them. We are at the hour mark. We can keep going if you would like, Rich. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you got comments, please share them down in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you guys. All right. We can go for a little bit longer. What time are you thinking, bud?
Yeah, I got a little bit left in me. Let me ask you a question here then.
Yes.
Who are your biggest losers so far in free agency as far as teams?
That's a great question. I think the biggest losers so far to me are the Bengals and the Texans. The Bengals are re-signing their they got Reed back, their defensive tackle. They re-signed him, but they're also going to try to trade Trey Hendrickson away. They haven't given Jamar Chase a contract. Everything that Joe Burrow has been asking for, they're not doing. So they're alienating their quarterback. They haven't bolstered their offensive line at all. And it's the same thing with the Texans. They're getting rid of all the offensive line players that they had. And granted, they weren't good at before, but now you're replacing them with players that are worse. You're improving your defense. I'll give you that. CJ Gardner-Johnson, older player, but a solid safety. But where's your offensive line? Where's your protection for CJ Stroud? The kid's going to get killed back there. And it's the same thing. Joe Burrow gets injured frequently because he's got no protection. He's got all the weapons in the world, and he can throw the ball really well and score a lot of points for you. Same thing with CJ Stroud. But if you don't have an offensive line, look at the Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl. Their offensive line was garbage. The Eagles had a field day with them. You need to win the trench game up front, especially with your offensive line. And I don't understand why these teams are getting rid. Laramie Tunsil should have been a Texan for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Like, you got to keep your best players. So to me, the Texans and the Chiefs, or the Texans and the Bengals, are teams that I'm just like, what are you doing? And maybe the Steelers too, because they're bringing in players, but you need a quarterback. You got to get one, whether it's Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. You got to do something before you lose out on them, because you're not in a spot where there's going to be a quality quarterback unless you're going for Jalen Milroe, because I think Jackson Dart is going up higher than a lot of teams think. I think Jackson Dart will be a lot better, higher pick. I think teams are going to fall in love with him, and he's a great leader and everything. But what are the Steelers going to do? They got the receivers. They got the defense. Get a quarterback. Those were the three teams that I'm just shocked with, that I'm confused of what they're doing. I think they're biggest losers. Who are your three teams?
I did agree with the Bengals. I did give them a benefit of doubt maybe today that they would have done something, but all that they have resigned as far as offensive lineman is just Cody Ford, and he's already a suspect starting slot lineman for them. Again, they haven't really bolstered the defense, which is obviously priority number one for them. Obviously, they are aware that they're going to obviously have to make a big salary cap hit for the next couple of years by re-signing Jamar Chase. So I think they're kind of going to be in the salary cap purgatory just because of Burrow and Chase's contract. So I don't know if that's the reasoning for that, but they got the issues of, defensive players looking to trade or looking for a trade. Like you said, Hendrickson requesting it, and trying to think the linebacker's name there that requested like earlier in this couple weeks ago. But they're not doing anything on my end that shows that they're looking to try to fix that defense, unless they're just going to go defensive heavy there in the draft. Jermaine Pratt was the name I was trying to think of.
Yes.
And he's actually a very solid linebacker. So again, now you get top defensive players on your roster that don't want to be there. It's not looking too good for them, and they're going to be a team that have to go based off of shootouts again. So it'll be interesting to see what they kind of do as far as the draft goes. We already kind of touched base on the Texans. They were another big loser of mine. I did think I'm not going to talk anymore about my Titans. They're another big loser, at least on my end. As I'm looking to the Dolphins, where are they really looking to try to improve? I know that they have some cap issues as well too with Tua's contract. So, and again, they're still in the player or the possibility of even trading Tyreek Hill if that's something that's still going to be later on in the season. So I don't think that them having another receiver yet is, I don't know if that's something that they'll maybe take care of in the draft. I saw that they did resign Westbrook and Keeney. So that'll help them out.
I thought he was going to the Dolphins.
Or to the Dolphins. Yeah. So I think that was a decent pickup for them for the red zone.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked he wasn't picked up sooner. That kid's going to be good.
Yep. So, and I think the Giants. I don't know. I mean, they got the Javon Holland pickup, but yeah. I do see them maybe being a team that'll go after like a J.K. Dobbins in the free agency.
Yeah,
they're kind of back up with Tyrone Tracy, who I thought had actually a really decent rookie season. I thought he looked pretty good last year. But yeah, it's like same thing as you were saying with the Steelers. You got to get a quarterback. They re-signed Tommy DeVito, their only quarterback in their roster right now. But again, if it's either going for Shedeur Sanders or Rodgers, then those are kind of my top three as far as losers. Let's say a couple other teams just for like mentioned. The Packers have been super quiet. The only big key signing that they got was their kicker. So hopefully they got the kicker.
They got an offensive lineman, I believe, as well. Early yesterday.
Banks there. Guard. Yep. So again, like I said before, I know that they were looking at trying to solidify the offensive line, but And I'm not saying that they're even just losers because I know that they're big in the salary cap hole too. But as far as like teams just lacking moves, and I know we talked a little earlier until I saw that they did sign Leonard Floyd, the Falcons.
Yeah,
I think that they
Falcons
need to
have been coming
work
in
on the
sneaky
defense, so.
lately with some of the players that they got.
Yeah, and I honestly I think Penix might be looking in the right direction for them too. I honestly think that offense can move. They had two top running backs for one roster.
I think if Algier, he could probably start for half the league. Again, that maybe one more weapon is probably what's needed for that offensive, receiving core besides just Drake London. Because obviously you saw when Penix came in, he just force fed Drake London. But that division is so weak that I still think that the Falcons and Bucks run away with that, and comes down to two of them again.
The thing I'll say about the Bucks too, re-signing Godwin, he's coming off a major injury, but they gave him a big contract.
Yeah, I was surprised
which I'm nervous about for them. You want to keep your players, but man, that was a shocking one. Happy for him though. He's earned it, but the injury concerns me. The reason I didn't say the Titans as biggest losers is because you guys did get a position of need. You got a tackle. So was the contract too much? Yes, but you also got a safety today. You got Xavier Woods, I think his name was, who was pretty solid. And you got him for a 2-year deal, and you're getting positions of need. Yeah, you got your linebacker as well. I didn't think you guys were that bad. Packers, yeah, they're quiet, but they're always like this in the beginning of free agency. They always like to double dip in like the second wave of free agency to get players that have been cut or released. I like the Saints, what they've done. Juwan, oh God, what's his name? Juwan Johnson, the tight end. I don't know where the Saints are coming up with all this money, but man, that was a great deal re-signing him. Guys, he's still young, solid receiving option. Not a great blocker, but you're not going to really need that in a Kellen Moore type of offense. It's going to be a high flying one. So that was a sneaky good trade. Are there any teams that you would say 3 big winners in this free agency? I think there are a couple, some that you could argue, but what would your 3 big winners of free agency be?
It's kind of narrowed it down. Obviously, I'd say the Patriots. We already kind of talked a little bit about them, just because they had the money that they could get the guys, and they're getting quality starters for the roster. I actually did kind of like how the Colts been kind of sneaky good with their pickups. I don't know about with their quarterback position. Obviously, that's kind of suspect, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But if Daniel Jones on a good day is not too shabby, but I do think that Charvarius Ward pickup for them was pretty decent. They did need somebody else in the back half of that roster. From looking at what Vikings fans have been posting, obviously on X, the Bynum pickup today was really big for them.
That was a steal.
So their defensive back is really looking pretty decent for a pretty decent linebacking core that they had. So I think the Colts are secretly looking to boost up that defense, which was highly needed too. If your offense isn't going to move the ball, besides with whatever Jonathan Taylor does, you got to definitely build up the defense. And I mean, I'm just a sucker for big moves, man. That DK pickup for the Steelers, I think, is going to be huge for whoever it is that brings them in there. But if I'm not going to pick them, I think bouncing back, I think I'm going to say Buffalo, just because of the smart moves that they are making for team needs, and not having to overpay for players. And I 1-year deals for Joey Bosa, you can get that solid production, especially if you're not winning out mentality. I think that was a good deal for him.
Yeah, I would argue Buffalo. I would say 2 teams in the Jets division. The Patriots have been spending like madmen, and now you got a coach in there who's going to coach them right, who's going to be physical, get the guys that he knows in there. They're banking on them staying healthy. That's the biggest risk, but they've been doing so many good things. They're building up that offensive line. They brought a leader in Morgan Moses. Solid move for them. Harold Landry, I love. They're bringing in players that are going to be solid for them. So the Patriots are big winners in my eyes. Vikings, big winners. I think they're doing everything they can to bolster up their team. The defense got much stronger. Offensive line got much better as well. So they're big winners. And one that I would say is a sneaky good one, I would say the Raiders. Geno Smith, that trade for Geno Smith, you need a quarterback, and he's proved that he can play. So now you don't have to reach on a Shedeur Sanders if he falls to 6. You can wait to get a quarterback next year, especially if Geno doesn't play well. You still need receiver help. You still need a couple pieces on defense. They lost Divine Diablo today to the Falcons, I believe. So they lost a linebacker, but they're sneaky. I think they're going to be a sneaky team next year in that division, especially now that they have a quarterback. Let's see what Geno can do. Let's see what they're going to do. You got Brock Bowers. You still got Michael Mayer, who I think is going to get traded one of these days. The guy, they're not looking for much. I think the report was that they're looking for like a 5th round pick for him. And he's still a young stud tight end. I think he just needs to be in the right fit. But you got Brock Bowers. You got Jacoby Myers there. You've got a solid running game as well. But I think they're going to go, if they go Ashton Genty, it just gets much better. But the defense isn't awful either. So I think they are a sneaky winner as well. But
I think so. But
yeah,
let's say, and we still have a couple more days left.
Tomorrow is the official. When it hits 4:00 tomorrow, these deals can be signed. I think there's going to be a couple big ones tomorrow because it happens all the time. You never really see some of these deals happen until the contract is signed. And you get surprised by it. Like, how did we not know about this one? Like, you hear the big names, like Harold Landry signing or people getting traded and stuff like that. Like the big names, like Justin Fields, quarterbacks. But then there are some sneaky ones that a couple days later, they signed a contract? Cool. Got them. So maybe the Titans can surprise you with some of the players that they can secretly get. Who knows? Maybe they'll get Tim Patrick as receiver or something like that.
Hey, he's like another ageless wonder. It feels like he has been playing forever, but that's because he missed a couple seasons back to back with injuries.
Exactly. But he's a solid leader in the locker room too. He's somebody who's connected to the Jets as well. You could get yourself an Elijah Moore at receiver, solid slot receiver. Stephon Diggs is still out there. You probably won't have him for the half of the season, but guys, I think we're gonna call it there. I think we got out everything. We had a rant in the beginning with the Titans, but man, this was fun. Our first live stream, guys. I'm really glad that you guys were here. I'm definitely gonna go live the first night of the draft as well, and who knows? Maybe I'll pop on for more live streams as well if more big news comes. Make sure you check out our channels. You can find Rich. Where can we find you, buddy?
FishBowl Fantasy Sports on both YouTube and Facebook. And I also want to thank again my 2,500 followers we're up to now on Facebook. We have a big mock fantasy football draft, way too early mock fantasy draft coming up on Saturday night. Have Ryan from the Jets Ward on there as well. So stay tuned for that Saturday night.
Excited for that one.
Me too. Never too early to talk fantasy football.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm so excited. If you guys want to know anything fantasy, Rich is the guy to go to. He is so good. He's so knowledgeable about a lot of players. He knows the sneaky players to go for, who to probably avoid in fantasy. The guy is an awesome fantasy football guy. Knowledge, so much knowledge. Make sure you guys go to his channel as well. Show him support. And thank you so much for joining me, bud. This was really fun. I'm glad we got to do this.
No, thanks for having me, Ryan. I certainly appreciate it. And you're doing a good job on your channel too. So definitely everybody follow this guy too as well. And make sure to like, share, subscribe to this content as long as so.
Thank you so much, buddy. And guys, if you liked the stream tonight, make sure you leave comments. Make sure you like, subscribe. I always love having you again. Mike, I'm definitely going live the first night of the draft. So thank you guys so much for joining me and joining us. And again, Jets, 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 Jets. Have a wonderful rest of your night, guys. See you later.